Hey, man, are the Steelers going to be able to jump up here and do something with Aaron Rodgers now, or is this just a different path to 10-7, where it's one and done in the playoffs? We'll see. This is one of the most fun divisions in football to talk about, even with, almost especially with the Browns. But even when it comes to who's going to be competitive, it's still going to be really fun just between the other three teams. Sorry, Browns. Who knows where we'll land on that exactly, but I'm kind of have my doubts. So this is We Are the Game. Today we're going to do our predictions, our power rankings, if you want to call it that, for the AFC North for the 2025 season. We've put together a little graph with the tier maker, and he's going to do two, and I'm going to do two. So why don't you get us started with whoever you want to get started with?
Yeah, let's talk about the Steelers first. They're the hot topic right now with the maybe somewhat predictable, I think, for a lot of people, is not overly surprised. There's been a lot of talk about this being the way that Aaron Rodgers ends up landing, which is exciting. It's very interesting, but there's some questions that raises as well, right? One for me is the offensive line, and their Aaron's not as young as he once was, and he already took a major injury a couple of years ago with the Jets. If Russ and Fields had 49 sacks behind that line, are they going to be able to keep him safe? One analysis I already saw on that was just talking about how quick Aaron really is to get the ball out in just like 2.6 seconds. So I'm very interested to see how that functions. I think everyone's interested in that. The wide receiver core has changed a lot. DK Metcalf's there, and what will that be? That's exciting. Who will step up and be number two? Their running back game is also now in question. Can they, use the rookie Caleb Johnson to come up and create something there to take pressure off? I'm excited to see how that works. But I think that I kind of feel like the offensive line's consistency and health is going to really play a massive role in the success of the offense. I think we already know what their defense is. The Steelers do a great job. That's why everyone, anyone who appreciates defense in football is kind of a passive fan of the Steelers. And once again, they've invested heavily in the defense in that rookie class as well. So with all that being said, I kind of see them staying in the same that same zone, the 10-7 era. I think they have the possibility of going higher than that, but I'm going to stick them in the 8-12. Yeah, I don't think I'm quite confident enough to move them up to that top tier, but that's where I'd put them. What do you think? Might as well hit Baltimore. What are your thoughts on Baltimore? Are they going to run higher than that, or you think they're going to be kind of down in this area?
Yeah, Baltimore, they just have such a great winning formula. They're as susceptible as any team to injuries, of course, and I didn't say this at the beginning, but any of these predictions are assuming relative health. We're not just going to assume that they're the San Francisco 49ers or the Cowboys or whoever from last year where everything goes to pot. We're assuming relative health. So again, with the Ravens, they're incredibly well run, top to bottom. Coaches, GM, offensive line, both sides of the trenches are good, and they have continued to invest a lot in the defense. I really love Malachi Starks. He's one of my favorite players. Some part of me kind of hoped the Cardinals would take him, even though our safety room is one of the only rooms we didn't need to invest in this last season. He just looks really good. Lamar Jackson's the man. He's going to be putting together MVP caliber seasons for a while. And unlike, not to discredit Mahomes, lest I get struck by lightning, but unlike Mahomes, he's doing it without a list of star-studded receivers and such. He didn't have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in his prime. He's got Zay Flowers and I think Rashad Bateman, and he's like, congrats to Bateman for just getting paid. And it's just like, he's got Mark Andrews, and that's great. Mark Andrews is underrated, but if anything, Derrick Henry takes away from his production. So anyway, they're really thriving, just absolutely flourishing there. I don't see any reason to believe any kind of fall is going to happen unless a team like Pittsburgh jumps up and steals a couple of games, like manages to sweep them. This division, like so many others, plays itself pretty hard. So I could see something like that happening, but even that is just a game or two off. And they're the team that could go 13 or 14 wins every year. Any year they don't is a surprise to me. They will occasionally drop one for no apparent reason to Jacksonville or Lord help them, Arizona. But as a whole, like, this is who they are. Their floor I don't even know that I could make their floor just 10 wins. So they've got to be at the top of this. Yeah, they'll be fun to watch this year, unless they're playing against me. And I just lost track. No, we don't play them this year. So they're always going to be the thorn in Kansas City side. It's them and Buffalo and Kansas City representing the AFC. But we'll see what they do this year. But I don't see any reason that they will go down even a little bit this year. So yeah, that being said, let's kind of switch gears from top to maybe toward the bottom. I imagine lower than Baltimore. Tell me about the Browns.
Yeah, looking at the Browns, the Browns are in a weird way kind of interesting to look at for me because I mean, last year they had 3 wins. There 2 of those 3 wins were in division. Talking about this division playing itself hard. Um, the question kind of comes down to, well, what do they do good, right? What can they build on that they do good? And the answer simply is not much. It's not that they don't have talent, they have superstar players that can produce really well. Myles Garrett, I think Garrett and Tomlinson, the way that they're going to play and the way that is going to be very interesting, the way their defense functions. But the defense also gave up 435 points last year. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is just exhaustion on the field and probably, I would think, morale exhaustion as well from just being in these games where you're like, well, we made another stop and there's no help on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that they're probably, like you've said, underappreciated. I'm not sure that I've seen enough change to justify an idea that they're going to move all the way from, let's say, 435 points to 350 points, which I think makes them significantly more competitive in this division. And then there's the offense. The offense, to me, it almost feels like they're going to go in to pick a quarterback by rolling a dice and just saying, okay, it's Flacco today. This offensive line gave up 66 sacks with Winston and Watson behind it. Flacco is the most immobile quarterback I can like picture in my head right now. I'm honestly kind of concerned for him. So it's hard for me to imagine he's going to stay in there very long, and that would even be their plan. So I'll be very interested to see exactly what the game 2, game 3 plan is that they're working towards here, whether it's Pickett or Shador. And I think as a Browns fan, that's got to be kind of exciting because you would think at some point in time early in the season, they're just going to hand the ball off to somebody else and say, here, go give it your best shot, which is kind of exciting. Also their running back group, which has been a strength for them, is kind of a question mark again. The running back they got out of Ohio State, I think is going to get a real shot. We'll get to see what he is. The bright star on offense, Jerry Jeudy and Njoku, they're a lot of fun. I really enjoy them a lot. But defense have done a great job of keeping him out of the end zone. We'll be interested to see if they can get back in. All those things considered, I still find it very difficult, in particular because of their own division and how tough it is that they'll get more than 6 wins. So as much as it pains me, I really felt like I was looking for reasons to get them out of this bottom tier. I really can't find a way to justify why. Now, there are things that could go really good for them and work that way. I just don't see them from a betting standpoint or a prediction standpoint. With that being said, do you think that they have any chance, or do you think that the Bengals will try to catch the Steelers, or will they be hanging out closer to the Browns?
Well, they're a challenge, and the short answer is I'll probably have to put them in the 5 to 9 range, but
yeah.
The reason for that is I want to put them higher. They have they kind of remind me of this is a weird reference that we've talked about before. Is the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball team. We have World Series hitting and Double-A pitching, and that's kind of them. They have amazing offense. They may have a Triple Crown winner 2 years in a row. They may Joe Burrow could have MVP kind of numbers, but on the 9-18, no one really cares. And that's not true. No one cares. Fantasy owners everywhere will rejoice, but it's that defense was not good, and they're potentially letting go of significant amount of some of their actually decent producing players. Jermaine Pratt, they just let go, I believe. Pratt, I think is his last name. Sorry. And then, The Cardinals picked up Davis Gaither, one of their other off-ball linebackers. They still haven't figured out this thing with Trey Hendrickson. I like to believe that they will sort it out with Trey, and then he will get paid his money, and hooray for him. But again, they weren't good with him. Now, I will say this. They did move off of their old DC and bring in the guy that was, I believe, is the DC from Notre Dame. And if you want to paint a picture of, okay, they're going to try to go young. Well, he's used to coaching young guys. He knows how to take advantage of their strengths because Notre Dame is many things, and defensive powerhouse is one of those things. So maybe that works. And we've talked about before how it's really hard to be a really, really, really bad defense year after year after year, kind of like how it's really hard to be really good year after year. But they have put themselves in a position where, man, you're really hoping more than truly believing that their defense is going to be better. And then you're walking the knife's edge with their offensive. Yeah, they're great, but anybody gets hurt. Jamar goes down, that offense way down. And obviously if Burrow goes down, again, we're assuming relative health, but that doesn't mean we're assuming unscathed. So I want to take him out of the 5-9 and put him up there with the Steelers at 8-12. And I could see that happening. And if I was putting them in the 5-9 range, it would be at the top where they would be 8-9 or 9-8 again. But I can't quite put them in the, it's likely they're going to have 10 wins or 11 or 12. It seems more likely that something would go wrong and they'd end up more at like 7-6-5. So with that being said, we're kind of creating a little, I don't know, miniature infinity gauntlet or whatever here. It's totally wrong. But anyway, of one in each. And I'm kind of a tertiary fan of the Bengals. And how can you not appreciate what Joe Burrow does? But I just don't see many paths to that defense holding its own consistently. And shoot, the young guy they brought in to replace or maybe just reinforce Trey Hendrickson, Shamar Stewart. First of all, he didn't have great production in college, but even the people who are like, yeah, but if you watch his technique, you can tell he's very disruptive. It's like, okay, great. I can talk myself into that. But there's some bickering going on about his rookie contract. It's like, y'all really don't. You'll need to get all new lawyers and agencies and all that stuff. They do not know how to work with players. Something is going on there. So I can't quite, kind of like how I talked about Baltimore. Remember how I say Baltimore is just built well top to bottom, and that gives me an extra like air of confidence in them. Right. Like reverse that. And that's kind of the Bengals. So love Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all that. But man, that defense and the infrastructure behind it concerns me. So I've got to leave them here at the lower tier. If I was picking a team to dramatically overperform, obviously I wouldn't pick Baltimore because they're already in the top tier. They'd be my easiest to pick would be Cincinnati, but I can't quite get myself to do it. So, yeah,
I agree.
So, any closing thoughts on any of this stuff, or?
I think my closing thought would just be of the divisions we've looked at so far, I actually felt like this might have been the most straightforward. Like, I think we agree pretty straightforward on these. I think I looked for reasons to even find ways to shift people up or down. And it's just, this is how this division plays out, right? It's like, this is Baltimore, Pittsburgh
right now.
Yeah. And there could be changes, like, we just saw Aaron Rodgers show up. So there's all sorts of possibilities. But yeah, I think my closing thought is, I think for me, this was the most straightforward, I think, top to bottom list that we've had so far. So it's fun to review, but ended up being exactly, I think, as predicted.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, that'll wrap up our AFC North power rankings and predictions. Next week we will get into, I believe it's the AFC South, which should wrap up our power rankings division by division series, if you want to call it that. But before we go, real quick, thank you to everyone who subscribed. We've gotten a bit closer to our goal of 100, and we really appreciate everyone who's clicked that button. And we hope you'll stick around with us and enjoy and tell us how wrong we are and all those fun things. So we are still trying to get to 100 by the start of the NFL season, which is about 88 days or something like that from now. So we've got some time. We're having a lot of fun. We really appreciate you. So we will get into the AFC South next week, and have a great week. Until then, take care.